There is a lot of weird in the state of Texas, but the 7 towns on this list take weird to a whole new level. Let's take a look. Number 7, Marfa, Texas. You've driven 3 hours from El Paso through an unbroken panorama of absolutely nothing. No trees, no gas stations, no little green alien dudes looking to probe your backside. And then you arrive in Marfa. Population around 1,700. This is a West Texas big joke on the rest of civilization. A dot in the Chihuahuan desert that has for some reason become one of the most talked about art destinations in the United States. The ranchers who built this town in the 1880s as a humble railroad stop would be either deeply confused or furious about what it's become. Probably a little of both. The crown jewel of Marfa's art scene is the Chinati Foundation. This is a sprawling museum built on a former military base where Donald Judd, a minimalist sculptor, decided that 100 identical aluminum boxes deserved their own compound. He planted his flag and declared West Texas would henceforth be taken seriously by people in expensive eyewear. And it worked! God help us, it worked. Not to be outdone, 30 minutes outside of town on Highway 90, sitting in the desert like a fever dream, is Prada Marfa, a fake luxury boutique that will never sell you anything, ever, not once, not even if you ask nicely. It's a permanent pop art installation. Now this one's weird. A lot of people have taken pictures of it. It just looks like a little miniature Prada store. If you want to get a picture of it and post it to your Instagram, be prepared because people have been taking pictures of this thing since 2015, so we've all seen it before. Now, once you get past all the art stuff, you got the Marfa lights, mysterious dancing orbs that appear in the night sky east of town, and which scientists have been failing to adequately explain since 1883. Yes, these are not drones, these are not something new, these things have been around a while. The town has even built a dedicated viewing center for them because Marfa is the kind of place that erects infrastructure around its own inexplicable phenomenons and then charges you nothing to witness them, which is frankly the most shocking thing about this entire destination. Whether the lights are atmospheric refraction, car headlights on the distant highway, or proof of something far more interesting, they remain Marfa's most democratic attraction. Free, weird, and completely indifferent to your opinions about them. Of course, what kind of place would Marfa be without some really strange hotels? You got El Cosmico, a nomadic hotel that rents you a yurt or a teepee for the price that would make an actual nomad spit their tea out. You got Hotel St. George for those that prefer their existential emptiness with a modern lobby. All in all, most people go to Marfa and they think, why would this be here? People get told it's Marfa. Normal rules don't apply here, and frankly, after a few days, you'll stop wanting them to. Number 6, Terlingua, Texas. Terlingua is what happens when a mining company extracts every last drop of cinnabar from the earth, declares bankruptcy, packs up, and leaves approximately 400 people standing in the West Texas desert holding absolutely nothing. Cinnabar, by the way, is something they mine, and that's how they get mercury. This happened in the 1940s. The town should have died. It had every reason to die. It's technically classified a ghost town, and yet somehow, stubbornly, in the way that only truly strange places manage, Terlingua not only refuses to disappear, but decided to become a destination. A destination. There's nothing out here. People actually drive here with purpose, with luggage. The town's crown jewel of weird is the Terlingua Cemetery, which in any normal place would be a somber footnote, but here it functions as a genuinely social gathering spot where locals sit among the graves at sunset, drinking cold beer and watching the light die over the mountains. It's not morbid. This is somehow completely reasonable once you've been here for about 40 minutes. The cemetery is full of old miners, faded wooden crosses, and the occasional plastic flower bouquet that is now sun-bleached. And for some reason, some people think it's one of the most beautiful places in Texas. You won't go there expecting to feel that way, but you probably will walk away thinking it's beautiful. This whole town exists primarily as a base camp for Big Bend National Park, which is about an hour away and contains some of the most dramatic, punishing, spectacular landscapes on the continent. Canyons, hot springs, desert mountains, and the Rio Grande doing its slow, ancient thing along the border. Now, I've been to Big Bend National Park. I think about it every time I see pictures of Mars. But people do drive to Terlingua from Houston and from Dallas, from places with functioning infrastructure and reliable cell service. Terlingua is not polished, not convenient, not particularly interested in your comfort level, and it is absolutely stubbornly, magnificently itself, which puts it ahead of roughly 90% of everywhere else in this part of Texas. Number 5, Jefferson, Texas. Where the 1800s are not the past, they're the whole personality. Jefferson, Texas didn't get left behind by time. It sort of just decided they were good where they were and sort of told time to go around. And this was in 1875. And it's been sitting on a porch of the 19th century ever since, deeply unbothered. This town of maybe 2,000 people in the piney woods of East Texas has collectively decided that its entire identity is the fact that nothing has changed since Ulysses S. Grant was president. Most places spend millions trying to manufacture character. Jefferson just never threw anything away. This was one time going to be Texas's next big city. It was a river port town. People from New Orleans and Shreveport used to come up like the Red River, go to this lake, and then go through a couple bayous, and they would find their way to Jefferson. So Jefferson was basically a pretty popular town, and at the time it was bigger than Dallas. Then after the Civil War, Reconstruction happened, and some events went on to kind of ruin Jefferson. One of the main things was the Red River. The Red River had this big log jam. This thing was like supposedly a mile long and a mile wide, something like that. They called it the Big Raft. Well, after the Civil War, they decided to start clearing it. When they cleared it, it had some effects I don't think they were expecting. The bayous and the rivers and the lake that steamboats used to get to Jefferson, well, they dropped. Some say the lake, not too far away from Jefferson, dropped 12 feet. Steamboats could no longer get to Jefferson, and the town died. But while it was a big town, it had all the trappings of a frontier town. They had saloons, really shady places for people to go to, and they also had a nice part of town. But here's the thing about Jefferson that separates it from the standard preserved historic town. Jefferson is absolutely deranged about ghosts, and it's committed to this in a way that commands respect bordering on concern. This is not a town with one spooky inn and a local legend that trots out around Halloween. This is a town that has organized its entire tourism economy around the premise that the dead have simply not left the town. The Excelsior House Hotel has been operating continuously since the 1850s, which, think about that, the 1850s, when Texas had been a state for 5 years. Ghost tours run nightly, multiple competing ghost tours, which raises fascinating questions about afterlife and the capacity for brand loyalty. If you're into supernatural stuff, watching those ghost hunter shows, you've heard about Jefferson. If you're ever in the area, go there, be a little creeped out, take a ghost tour, and you'll see how weird this place is. People have kind of modeled their whole life around ghost stories in this town. Number 4, Luckenbach, Texas. Here's what Luckenbach, Texas officially is. A general store, a dance hall, a couple of old buildings, under some oak trees, and 3 chickens who answer to no one. Here's what Luckenbach, Texas actually is. A slow-acting spiritual ambush dressed up like an afternoon drive through the hill country. You think you're just stopping in for a beer. You're not just stopping in for a beer. Nobody has ever just stopped in for a beer in Luckenbach, Texas. People have stopped for a beer in Luckenbach and woken up 2 days later with a used guitar, a new philosophy, and an altered relationship with the concept of Monday. The population is listed somewhere between 3 and 25, which is kind of a funny statistic until you realize it's kind of accurate. Luckenbach isn't as much a town as it is a consensus. A shared agreement among people present that this particular clearing in the Texas Hill Country right now is exactly where they're supposed to be. There's no real cell service worth mentioning. There's a guy on a porch playing a guitar that's seen better decades. There's a dog sleeping in an inconvenient location and absolutely nobody's moving it. The beer is cold and the shade is good. Waylon Jennings wrote a song about this place. And standing there in the dust and the oak filtered afternoon light, you understand that he wasn't writing about a location so much as a feeling feeling that briefly had an address. This is one of the weirdest places that, you'll find in Texas. It's an unincorporated town 13 miles from Fredericksburg. It's not on a main highway, but it serves as a rest stop where you can get beer, mail a letter, and do some other things. It's almost like a picnic ground. It's really, really a strange place. Kind of place you only get in Texas. Number 3, uncertain Texas. Most towns pick a name that projects confidence, something geographic, something honorable, something with a little frontier cojones. Uncertain Texas looked at tradition and said, no thanks, we'll stick with weird. The story goes that nobody could agree on where the town boundaries were. These people weren't even sure if it was in Texas or Louisiana. Little side note to this one, this is a river town, and the steamboats that used to go to Jefferson from earlier in this video used to go right by here. And at some point, the steamboat captains navigating the Big Cypress Bayou weren't entirely sure if they could dock there on any given day. Rather than resolve any of this, someone just wrote uncertain on the paperwork, and apparently everybody shrugged and moved on. This is either the most honest act of municipal naming in American history or a catastrophic failure of civic duty. And honestly, could be both. The town sits on Caddo Lake, which a lot of people think is the only natural lake in Texas. That's wrong. That's a myth. But Caddo Lake is really interesting. It's got ancient cypress trees rising out of the black water, Spanish moss hanging in long gray curtains, lily pads, herons standing perfectly still like they were paid to do it. It's definitely a beautiful place in a haunted type of way. Oh, and it's got alligators, which when you rent a canoe, they'll casually mention that to you. The population hovers under 100 and the economy runs on fishing trips, boat tours, catfish plates, and the whole place operates at a pace that feels biological rather than chosen, like the bayou itself. For a town that could never quite get its story straight, it tells a pretty good one. Number 2, Dublin, Texas. Dublin's got a population of about 3,500 residents, maybe about 37. Whatever it is, it's definitely under 4,000. And they got an axe to grind with the Snapple Company. Because this town had one thing that no other place on earth had. The oldest Dr. Pepper bottling plant in existence that was still using the original formula. Still sweetened with real cane sugar, still producing a soda so superior to the modern corporate version that people drove hours out of their way just to get a case of it. Dublin Dr. Pepper wasn't just a novelty. It wasn't just a quirky regional curiosity for people who like to collect local hot sauces and mustards. It was genuinely a better soda. The kind of better that ruins you. The kind of better that makes you pick up a regular Dr. Pepper at a gas station and throw it away with the quiet grief of someone who knows they're missing something. It was a beautiful thing. And then Dr. Pepper Snapple Group, a corporation that apparently had nothing more pressing to attend to, noticed that Dublin was selling their superior product outside its licensed territory, and they decided this was a problem that needed solving. And in 2012, they sued the Dublin bottling plant into submission, the plant that had been operating since 1891. They had been doing the same thing correctly for over a century. The plant that was, by every measurable account, the last place on earth making Dr. Pepper the way Dr. Pepper was supposed to taste. The corporation looked at all the history and all the goodwill and all the generational loyalty and said, yeah, go ahead and stop. And that was it. What Dublin has now is a story, which they'll tell you with a level of pride and nostalgia. These days, there's a Dublin Soda Works that rose from the ashes, making cane sugar sodas under a different name, which is the small town equivalent of getting knocked down and immediately standing back up while maintaining eye contact. There's a Dr. Pepper museum. There are locals that'll explain the whole saga to you unprompted and at length. So the corporation won in court. Dublin won in the way that actually matters. They had a better product, they knew it, everyone who ever tasted it knew it, and no legal settlement ever successfully made anybody forget what good Dr. Pepper tastes like. Dublin is still out there, the grudge is still warm, the cane sugar was real, and they were absolutely onto something. And then came corporate greed. All right, before we get to number 1, what do you think about this video? Do you like it? Let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit that like button. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, Wimberley, Texas. Wimberley sits in the Texas Hill Country at the confluence of Cypress Creek and the Blanco River, or Blanco River. And something about that particular arrangement of limestone and spring water and cedar filtered light has quietly dismantled people's previous held life plans. You arrive a normal person with a normal job and normal priorities. You leave 3 days later having priced out 2 acres at the edge of town, bookmarked 3 different pottery classes, and developed a suspiciously strong opinion about the importance of a front porch. Nobody warns you what will happen. The town doesn't need to warn you. The town has done this thousands of times, and it knows exactly what's going on. The people of Wimberley have achieved something genuinely unusual, which is a collective personality so consistently, relentlessly mellow that it starts to feel less like a lifestyle and more like a mild personality adjustment. These are people who make things with their hands, and I mean it. Not as a hobby, not as content, but as a whole entire philosophy. The Saturday market alone contains more handmade ceramic mugs, original watercolors, hand-poured candles, and homemade hot sauces than any rational market analysis would suggest is sustainable. And yet, every single vendor appears to be doing just fine, spiritually, if not always financially. That's what's going on here. This is a hippie town in the middle of Texas. Artsy hippie people live here, musicians, everything. The town has embraced this. But that's not all they got. They got Jacob's Well, a natural swimming hole that is, without exaggeration, one of the more cosmically strange things in Texas. It's a vertical cave that drops straight down into the earth through a crystal clear spring water, ancient and cold and impossibly blue. You'll swim over this knowing that you don't know where the water is going. You don't really know where it's coming from. It's still beautiful and slightly terrifying at the same time. Nothing here is completely normal. It's like Wimberley has decided that normal is for other places, like Austin. This whole town operates on a frequency that's slightly off for the rest of Texas. Too artsy for the ranch crowd, too genuinely weird for the Instagram weekend crowd, too laid back to be worried about anything. And of course, like all hippie places, there's plenty of crystals for sale. And they could be right next to a barbecue place. There's a man selling wind chimes made from reclaimed farm equipment, and he is completely serious about his wind chimes. Wimberley's not putting on a show, it's just, this is how Wimberley is. And if you didn't show up to hang out there, it would still be doing it. Here's the problem. About a month after you visit for the first time, you're looking in the backyard of your new property that's in escrow, trying to figure out where your pottery wheel's gonna go. And that's kind of why this place is so weird. All right, that is today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a great day, be nice to each other.